was thinking, wow, we read one piece that said that Etihad's evolving into a discount carrier, which doesn't seem to be the case. I think it's fair to say our next guest fits into that category. And another definition was, oh yeah, Tony Douglas is going to make this a boutique carrier. That doesn't seem accurate as well. So how are you going to define Etihad Group? It's not to be the biggest carrier, but it has to be a carrier that supports exactly what I was talking about, inbound traffic, and then supporting the growth, a very strategic positioning that Abu Dhabi has taken when it comes to both geopolitical nature and geoeconomic nature in the last 4 or 5 years. What's in your mindset today and how you're working with the very important aviation sector development committee with Sheikh Diab here, Sheikh Diab bin Mohammed Al Nahyan, which is very strategic in nature, trying to rebuild that airline. Tell me.
Well, first of all, good morning to everybody. Sabah al-Khair. It's an absolute privilege for me to be back here in Abu Dhabi. And when you were giving that introduction, I was just about to get up and leave through the side door because no pressure, given the way that you led into this one. But I am absolutely humbled to be part of the incredible Etihad family. It goes without saying, the responsibility that we've got is part of extending Abu Dhabi to the world. It's an incredible brand that I think everybody's very familiar with. But in an industry that I was joking with my daughter last weekend, and she's 26 years of age, and often she teases me. She says that she thinks I'm so old that I need to be carbon dated. And I say to her, yeah, but the one benefit of that, of course, is a long memory. And of course, within that long memory, I can remember in the 1960s going on our first ever family holiday to Spain on Dan Air, which in those days, for people who, of course, will probably never heard of them, was a budget carrier. I remember going in the 1970s on Freddie Laker's SkyTrain across the Atlantic, which was the first attempt at a low-cost long haul. And then many other evolutions of commercial flight. And of course, the point that I try to make to her is, in my humble opinion, it's one of the most competitive industries that I've seen in my lifetime. And of course, it continues to evolve. And that evolution has seen many very famous brands no longer be in existence. And it's seen lots of new, innovative propositions come to the fore, certainly over the last decade. And I think when one puts that into the context of Etihad, it should give us huge confidence that from this incredible start, because Etihad will be 15 years old later this year in November, we've created something that's truly special. A wonderful service proposition, an incredible brand, but like everybody else in what is a really tough business, we've got to innovate, innovate, and innovate. The challenge of getting better at getting better is in every granule of detail. And I think the way that I would explain it to my daughter is through that kind of many decades of aviation kind of memory, it was pretty much until recent times a proposition of there was an economy product, there was a business product, and at times there was a first-class product. I can see that getting replaced by every single person is a unique customer, and he or she can be served based upon what he or she requires. And the fourth revolution, industrial revolution that was referred to in the video before, the digital capabilities that are represented there will allow us to be an innovator in how we give choice to everybody when they buy a ticket and when they're served by Etihad going forward. So is it a boutique? Probably not. Is it an airline of choices? Probably yes, it is.
So it's going to be high service. How does it dovetail with the Aviation Sector Development Committee I was talking about here with Sheikh Diab? You were at the port, you were at the airport, now you're at the airline. We've seen what Dubai Inc. has done both with Emirates and Fly Dubai, for example, and joining up with the code share. How do you bring these entities together to support outbound growth for Abu Dhabi, which is very important as well? So the inbound, I can see what you're suggesting, is going to be high service.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it's going to be a small carrier. But how do you support growth going forward, in your view?
Well, I think first of all, the wisdom of the leadership that has established a higher aviation committee is something that I think is quite frankly genius. It allows Team Abu Dhabi to operate very much as Team Abu Dhabi. And again, humbly, Etihad has a significant part to play in that. There is a huge tourism proposition here, you know, this wonderful facility on Saadiyat Island, and of course Yas Island, and the many other incredible destination propositions here at Abu Dhabi. But to be able to connect that with a home-based carrier such as ourselves, with the airport company, and the many other entities that come together to facilitate that experience being presented globally, is something that I think we have already evolved. And as those developments continue, it allows us to get better at getting better there. And, you know, I do admire what I observe from our great friends in Dubai, you know, with Tim and Grace, who run two wonderful airlines down the road. You know, they have incredible customer propositions as well. And we look to learn from them, but also, you know, really take strength from being quite special in what we do here in Abu Dhabi. And, you know, the geography plays to this as well. 2/3 of the world's population are within 6 flying hours of Abu Dhabi, the UAE. The average age profile, certainly compared to Western Europe and North America, is significantly lower. If one takes markets in India and China as just two examples, one observes GDP growing in excess of 7%. India, for example, middle class of over 300 million, and disposable income that penetrates a desire for more air travel. So the fundamentals, I humbly believe, are there and not challengeable. The opportunity of how one creates that to be connected with the many benefits of Abu Dhabi is something that higher committee is working tirelessly upon.
This is a case where the partnerships worked. So you said it's almost a 15-year-old airline. The Jet Airways partnership worked. We've learned a lot, I would imagine, from Alitalia Air Berlin. Give us a sense, has that process finished in your view in terms of the partnerships you want to maintain here and where the benefits of partnership are and what you're open to in the future?
I think back to the reference of being almost 15, by definition that suggests that we are an adolescent when it comes to life cycle. And my confession to everybody of the morning is I certainly made a mistake or two when I was an adolescent. I know you wouldn't have done, John. But you know, the important thing is to learn and to take stock and to move on. We have learned from the experience with Alitalia and with Air Berlin. Not all bad, by the way. And I think the benefit of that plays into everything that we now do.
Very strategic, very measured, I would imagine, is approach.
And I think that would be the key takeout, is being very disciplined, very measured, but not in any way being frightened away from the benefit of collaboration, because as you rightly said earlier, that can be a terribly cliched word, but embraced properly is a way to develop growth in a sustainable way. And of course, we'll continue to look at that on a case-by-case basis, but we'll choose wisely. We'll make sure that the detail is well attended to, and the partners that we still have great delight in working with are a key part of the Etihad family.
Okay. Final thought, because of time. I spoke to the Director General of Saudi Arabia Airlines last week at the Arab travel market. He has aspirations to go from 147 planes to 200. We know the size of Emirates, collaboration with Fly Dubai, the idea of Qatar Airways not kind of folding, but actually expanding, trying to open up new markets in this kind of political environment here. Do you worry about overcapacity and how Etihad carves out its space in this environment?
I go back maybe to the fundamentals that I referred to before, 2/3 of the world's population, etc. But, you know, in our line of business, you know, the network is all important, and the network is dependent by, you know, destination capacity. And that should always be rigorously reviewed on an ongoing basis. I believe the fundamentals are in place for everybody who has an innovative, competitive product to continue to grow. Whether the pace of growth will be quite as aggressive as people had assumed in the past probably remains to be seen. But I would suggest that we remain very optimistic within the Etihad Group.
Okay, final thing in 30 seconds, if you don't mind. Sir Tim Clark talked about collaboration, and we're open between Emirates and Etihad. There's collaboration on security, I would imagine, because you're a procurement person. You could say we could do a lot when it comes to procurement and save money and learn from each other where to go to in the future. But what are your designs on that? Is it early days? I know that you have the higher committee looking at this. Do you want to give us a taste of what you're thinking?
I think, you know, first and foremost, one has huge respect for Sir Tim. You know, his experience within the sector and what Emirates have done in the past 35 years. You know, by definition, by the same description, we're adolescent, they're adult, they're mature. And in that regard, I think there is a significant amount of benefit from which we can learn. Collaboration is something that benefits both parties. You referred to, John, that in January this year we signed a memorandum of understanding around security. We've also done something through Donata on ground handling in some of our outstations. And I think it's fair to say that, you know, as two partners from the United Arab Emirates, that we'll continue to consider, where appropriate, are there other things that we can do together?
Great.